Okay, perfect timing. We have a little visitor on my end. Welcome everybody to tonight's panel. It is one of 4 panels Spectrum is doing over the month of Pride, and I'm really excited to be here with all of you. My name is Suzie Taka. I'm a member of the board of directors of Spectrum. This is Avi. He is going to bed in just a minute, but he has come down to say hi. So welcome. Tonight is about LGBTQ2 as parenting, and it's about It's about straight parents of queer kids. So I'm very excited for the lovely panel we have here tonight and the discussions we're going to have. Just so folks know, this is being recorded. So if you unfortunately have to tap out early, we will be able to send this recording out after. And if you have any questions for the panelists, there's a Q&A feature right at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to leave some time at the end to get to those questions. Eating a fake carrot here. So before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the truth that we are situated on the Haldimand Tract, which is the traditional land of Haudenosaunee and Mississauga and Anishinaabe nations. We also recognize the Chinootan peoples of what has come to be known as the Neutral Nations, a people entirely eliminated by the colonization of this land. We also recognize that the Indigenous peoples of this land recognize Two-Spirit as a way of being, an individual who carries in them the medicines and teachings of many genders and sexualities. We recognize that this traditional regard for Two-Spirit peoples has set them apart in their knowledge, but also that they have always been regarded as an important, respected, and protected members of their communities. We recognize that the histories and teachings of Two-Spirit peoples have always influenced and added to Indigenous ways of knowing. This territorial acknowledgement alone cannot accomplish justice, and we are committed to working towards reconciliation and ensuring that our programs, services, and practices are culturally relevant and accessible to Indigenous peoples in our community. Bye, Abby, bye. And also, just given the news and how tough things have been in the world lately, and the realities we're being confronted with, I just want to recognize that right now this is a time of grief and pain for a lot of people, and as we move through that, we're trying to do our best to move forward, but recognize that this is a very difficult time where we're really unfortunately seeing upfront just how much hate there still is in this world and the ongoing genocide of Indigenous peoples. So that being said, welcome tonight. I hope this can be a space to learn and to share and just to connect. As you can see, I am a parent myself. I am a queer parent of what I was telling the parents who are here tonight, just a child whose gender we have like no idea. I would say his gender is just like garages and popsicles and rainbows at this point. And I'm excited to learn from parents tonight who have kind of been on this journey as parents. Like the moment you have a kid, people are gendering them and they're talking about how they're going to marry, how little boys will marry the little girl down the street, and there is just so much put on babies and children from such a young age to indoctrinate them into gender binaries, and we've seen all the harm that's been done of that, and I think it's going to be really lovely to hear from people who have worked against that norm. So I would like to take a moment to get all the panelists to just briefly introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Maryanne Paul, please.
Hello, my name is Maryanne, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm the mom of 2 sons, one cisgender and one transgender. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you, Maryanne. And next we have Theresa Barrick.
Thank you, Suzie. My name is Theresa. My pronouns are she and her, and like Maryanne, I am the mother of 2 sons. I have a transgender son and a cisgender son.
Thank you, Theresa. And Emily Gaede.
I'm Emily. I'm a mother of 3 kids, 3 different genders. My oldest identifies as trans or non-binary, using they, them pronouns. And I use she, her, and here we are.
Welcome. And finally, we have Matt Lucid.
Great to be here. My name is Matt Lucid. I use he, him pronouns. I have 5 children. 2 of them are trans girls. Yeah, so we have our hands full with a lot of kids.
Welcome. Okay, great. So we're going to go over some questions that I'm going to invite everyone to answer or not to answer if you don't want to. I know when we're talking about people's children, like there's an element of privacy we also want to respect. So feel free to pass on anything you'd like to, but I'm also very grateful that you're here to tell your stories. So the first question we have tonight is how did your children come out to you? And maybe the experience from your point of view. So instead of theirs, you know, what was that like for you? Were you surprised? What did it feel like? Does anyone want to go first, or should I call on the class?
I'll go. So Alex came out first as a lesbian in grade 5 or 6. And that seemed to make a lot of sense at the time, but Alex was still really struggling with a lot of dysphoria that back then we didn't have the word for or the understanding. And the poor kid actually tried really hard to come out as trans, and as open and loving as I am, I wasn't hearing him when he was trying to say, because he didn't have the words, and he would say, "Mom, I'm a dude," and I'd be like, whatever. Like I wasn't taking him seriously, because I also had at that time had never heard the term transgender before. So I was very unfamiliar with everything. So that's how he came out. And then finally in the car, which is my recommendation for parenting. That's my only parenting advice. You want a conversation? Do it in the car. And it was in the car that he finally said, "Mom, I need you to look up what transgender is. That's what I am." And then he quickly ran out the door to school. I was like, okay. Yeah.
The car is a non-confrontational way to get things out sometimes. Like there's just an element of separation, I think. Does anyone else want to go next? Emily, great.
So my kid ended up coming out around like the age of 6, and they were having ongoing behavioral issues at school, like just a lot of problems. And you know, when they come home, they change into like different clothes that match their gender expression then. And there was one particular day that there was a big sort of meltdown over not being able to find the clothes that they wanted to wear, which happened to be clothes that was like more costumes, so it wasn't like in the regular rotation for school. And I, you know, having some training with the work that I do, I thought like maybe this is a good time to talk about gender, you know, what is going on. So I found a copy of a children's book, I Am Jazz, and I found it on YouTube actually with Jazz Jennings reading it. And we just like watched it together, and then I showed them they had a lot of questions about that, felt like saw themselves in, you know, like this kid seems like me, and was really excited at the idea that they didn't have to develop into like the kind of adult with the sex that they were assigned at birth, right? That there was a way to interrupt that process. And it was like Christmas to them. It was very mixed feelings for me, because I'm like, what am I, you know, what do we do now? But I showed them the gender unicorn thing, and we talked about like kind of pegged ourselves on all the different spectrums there, and it was like really fast, like just following their lead. Like I think I was out that night picking up new clothes that they'd asked for, and it felt very surreal and fast, but it was like once they learned that this was a possibility, it was like, I want to have this. I want to see what this is like. So that's how it started.
I could go next.
Thanks, Theresa.
So my child came out about 7 years ago, the week before high school, actually, and he wrote us a very long letter. Or what I thought was a long letter. I went and tracked it down, Maryanne. So here it is now. And so I read it again tonight. It's actually only 1 page long, but I swear it was like 3 pages long from the memory 7 years ago, right? And it's a wonderful, well thought out letter on, this is what I need, this is what I need to do, but I don't want to do it now because I want to be able to do certain other things first when I transition, and I want to do it slowly, and it was just a wonderfully thought out letter from a child who had just turned 14 basically, and I was very impressed with it. And we had no idea, like there were no signs, nothing. My limited experience with transgender up to that time had been like the Hilary Swank movie, and like that was it. Like and I'm just like, deer in the headlights. And of course, it was like 11 o'clock on a Sunday night when he gave us the letter. And it's like, okay, we all need to go to bed, but so we just started looking around, and where to go next. So.
Great. Thank you, Theresa. Matt, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Our experience was a bit different because I mean, it wasn't so much as a coming out. I guess there was along the way, but this is when she was 3 or 4 years old. There was just a gravitation towards, and I mean, these are complete stereotypes, but maybe that's how she processed. I mean, she loved pink, she loved purple, she loved Dora the Explorer. So it sort of went from there and into art, and still into art and all that kind of stuff. But then it was a lot of dress up clothes, like costumes that people were talking about, and talking a lot about, I want a skirt and I want long hair, and I want a skirt and I want long hair. And for maybe her 4th birthday, 3rd, 4th, I don't know, it all blurs together. But I got her a purple skirt, like a corduroy one. And I mean, she was over the moon. And then at some point she said she was a girl, and it's like, okay, I mean, and this sounds negative, but we're being sort of transparent here. I'm like, oh, like, I mean, this is going to be a tough hill to climb. Like for her, it's like, why can't my kid be normal and just be gay? Like, because that's more socially accepted. And it was just a lot of reading and talking with friends about life and life in general. And it was like, hey, like, I mean, stuff that has to be or gets to be decided at 18 or 25 or 30 doesn't have to be, thought about or lost sleep now. It's, hey, what do we have to do? And then we reached out for some supports, and it's like, oh yeah, like this is pretty easy, but that's really how it was. So it was a bit of a gradual thing of, hey, this is happening, and we're not sort of rigorously, no, you're a boy, you wear blue jeans and go to the rodeo kind of thing. It was, yeah, you're into these stuff and you want some Dora stuff, let's get you some Dora stuff. Like, who cares? It's all stuff, or clothes or whatever. And yeah, it was like, okay, no problem, So, I mean, maybe we weren't feeling that on the inside. There's a bit of fear and apprehension of how do I navigate this? This is life's next curveball, So yeah, that's so that's one of our children. I guess we're talking about 2 since I have 2. The second one was a little bit different in the sense that my wife and I have 4 kids, and we're sort of a glutton for punishment because we adopted a 5th child, and she was transgendered. And that was the stars aligning of them looking for a home with some different attributes. And one of them was, hey, can you raise a trans kid? And it's like, well, sort of. We're already doing that. I mean, we're doing the best job we can, all that kind of stuff. So with Clara, it was okay, we've done this. Let's, do it again kind of thing. And it's been fun. Yeah. So second time, it's like, oh, we've done some educating of ourselves over the last however many years, so yeah.
Matt, how old was Clara when she came to your home?
5, just turning 6.
Okay.
Yeah, but same situation as our older daughter, where they know
Yeah.
for them. I'm not talking about every gender non-conforming kid, but for them it was 3, 4, 5 years old. Hey, this is where things are at for me. What are you going to do about it? You know, and with us, it's like, well, I guess still parent you and figure out what you need.
Okay. I just
Can
want
I
to.
add,
Yeah,
can
go
I add
ahead.
something?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, this is just because I need to express my excitement. Matt, we did a Waterloo School Board video a number of years ago, and I'm so delighted to hear you adopted Clara. Sorry, when you said that, it just filled my heart with such joy, because Clara was part of the program that the board was trying to teach our region about our children, and what a love Clara was. So hello.
Yeah, we were part of that video too.
Yes.
I might add more hair then, but yeah, but not with Clara. So it was interesting how the stars aligned. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool world.
You're beautiful people. That's awesome.
If we're not sobbing by the end of this, like, I just kind of feel like thinking about cars, when my wife came out to her dad, they were in the car. She was like in her 20s. She goes, Dad, I think I might be bisexual. And he's like, okay, are you sure you're not just a lesbian? Like, that was his, and she was like, absolutely not. And is she bisexual? She is not. She is very much, on one side of the sexuality spectrum. But this kind of leads to our next question, which is, I think some of you have alluded to this, which is the concept of, like, do you see in your child something before they've said it out loud to you? And so what advice would you give to parents who think their child might identify as LGBTQ2S or trans, or to parents whose children have questioned their gender identity or sexuality? So for kids who have not, come out in that traditional formal sense, but where there's an inkling in some way.
I can. We didn't have any inkling at all with Ezra. So I actually asked him this question, like, what should we have done differently? And he said, nothing really, but just tell the other parents to always make your child feel like they are in a safe space, that that they can talk to you about anything, no matter what. And just, that was his advice to the parents.
Yeah, I think I'll go next. I mean, I think it's one thing when your child, there might be an inkling that they might be on the rainbow spectrum or something like that. But I would sort of challenge and say it doesn't really matter if your kid's on the rainbow spectrum. Like being able to say, hey, it's okay for a guy to marry a guy, a girl to marry a girl. Hey, gender's fluid. There's transgendered people. A black person can marry a white person. Like all these things that we need to tear down anyway. Like I would say that sort of as an overarching sort of social justice thing. But I think the best thing that I read about all this stuff is, and I mean, there was some article or some study, maybe the LA Times did or whatever, and it talked about there's bad statistics out there about trans kids and suicide and lots of other risky behavior. But it also then broke up the group of trans kids, where some of them were loved unconditionally, either at home or by a teacher or whoever in that way. And I mean, their rates of risky behavior and some of those bad outcomes were a heck of a lot lower. Like they had a decent life. So the most important thing I ever read is love my kid unconditionally. Let them know, I mean, this is perfectly fine and perfectly normal. And not everyone's going to like it. And not everyone's going to like it, whether you're on the rainbow spectrum or anything. I mean, if you're human, not everyone's going to like it. So those are the things. And I mean, having conversations as opposed to hard conversations earlier and exposing them in different welcoming environments, whether those are church communities or the potlucks we were talking about earlier and stuff like that I had forgotten about, but then remembered, like all these different groups that get together. And it's like, yeah, because we want to normalize this because it's normal, you know. So that's sort of my take on that one from a couple different perspectives.
That is great. As a person who is queer and came out quite late in life, relatively late, like almost 30, I think for me, no one knew I was queer. I didn't know I was queer until my 20s. And I always think, like, what if I had just known this was an option? Like, I would have saved myself a lot of pain and a lot of just feeling very disconnected. So I think you're absolutely right. Like, and regardless of what you think your kid, I was never stereotypically gay. So no one thought to, you know, take me to a potluck or anything. But had I known, I could have just, like, a whole decade I could have saved, you know? So I really appreciate that. Does anyone want to add to this before we go to the next one? Emily, yeah.
I agree with, you know, some of the other parents, like, just, if you don't know what to do, like, just love them first, be affirming no matter what. Like, you always have time to wrap your head around things, right? But you know, like, maybe you need to diversify your life a little bit, like start incorporating, you know, like, you know, queer artists into your life, or music, or on your social media or whatever. Start listening to different people. And I mean, like, we really don't have any control over who our children end up becoming. And you know, life is full of surprises. And in my case, it was you know, even though I had fears, like statistics running through my head and mental health and everything else, remembering that those statistics are usually associated with children and youth that don't have affirming people in their life. So whatever, you know, you don't have to know what to do right away, but if you love them, if you can be affirming, and then you've got time to figure it out. And just, you know, life is full of surprises, right? We don't have to, our kids' gender is the, you know, the least interesting thing about them. Really. And gender reveal parties have already started 3 wildfires this year. So
there was another one in Alberta last week, I think. It's a public health issue.
Just in Canada alone, there's been 3, right? So you know, but we want to be excited. We want to connect with our kid when we're pregnant. Maybe that's the you know, we have an idea of who this little human will be. But if you can be flexible and accept that, like, diversity is not a bad thing, and yeah, the rest will come.
That's great, thank you. So the next one is, I think, for me, this feels like a very tough one, and I'm very interested to hear. Have you had to deal with conflicts or teaching or anything with family and them supporting your kids? And maybe this is friends and neighbors as well, but I think you wind up being teachers to your whole circle when your kid comes out. And so I'd love to hear what folks have to say about that.
I will. So I have one sibling that I still see if there's a family event, because I'm pretty much a keep the peace person, but a brother that, excuse me, I had to unfriend from social media, and I just don't put up with it. I guess there's no other way around it. And sometimes we have challenges with us. We have 2 grandmas that struggle with pronouns, and it's not ever malicious or unkind. They're both struggling with their capacities. And sometimes they forget and they get very confused and they don't understand. So as a family, we've had to just have a conversation with Alex. And, but the reality is Alex doesn't enjoy spending time with the grandparents because of that. And he's trying, he's doing the best he can. And they do, when the capacity allows, they do the best they can. And I do have a funny story. My youngest sister, when Alex first came out as a lesbian back in grade 5, I remember she said to me, I don't know, I could never deal with it if one of my kids was the L word. And that was the capacity of the conversation, right? The L word. And well, wouldn't you know, her oldest daughter is the greatest little lesbian you could ever ask for. So she's, obviously come around and sees life very differently. But I think that she had come around before her daughter came out anyway. So yeah, it was a growing experience for our family, that's for sure.
I'll let anyone else go with the whole situation.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Emily.
Okay. I'd say, I think I was lucky in the sense that like our families, came around very quickly and wanted to do everything that they can to support my child and us. The one thing I think I did too much of was I took on the role of like educating everyone and, sitting with everyone through all their different emotions and whatever. And that was really emotionally exhausting. So I've learned to have a lot better boundaries with that. Like, as far as, if you're not sure what this is, then go ahead and research. And so it's not, my job to educate, but it is my job as a parent to set some healthy boundaries around who has access to our family. If someone's, transphobic or homophobic, like, I don't need you in my life. I don't think you're going to be great for us, and our values would clash enough that it wouldn't be worth it. So, it's about really kind of knowing what your boundaries are and trying to honor that even when it's challenging. And if getting support, if you do have family struggles, definitely getting some support around that, because it's tough.
Thanks, Emily. Did anyone else want to touch on this one? And fair if you don't want to, Matt.
But I think Theresa was going to go next. You go ahead.
But sure, thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Theresa.
We didn't actually, Ezra hasn't had a lot of, we haven't had a lot of conflict. It's been really, everybody's been very supportive. People we told, they were all supportive. School was fantastic, like just no issues whatsoever all through high school. It was crazy because I was expecting some, and even, first year college, there were no issues at all. Everybody he was accepted at face value. And there's only one of my cousins who I had to unfriend on Facebook just because of the transphobic stuff he was posting. But so he doesn't even know, and I don't see him anyway. So right. Anyway, that's all I had, really.
I think we all have a racist or homophobic or transphobic cousin we've unfriended too. That's pretty okay collateral damage. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, my experience, and I like hearing other people talking about the education experience. Mine was I didn't really want to do it in person because I wanted people to think about it. So, mine was just a well-written email of, hey, this is the situation, and she's transgendered. This is what it means. This is what I'm expecting of you as far as pronouns and stuff like that. And I don't know if it was on that initial email, like to our inner circle kind of thing, but then it's sending them, I think there was a video by like a 7-year-old or something explaining what trans is and what they're looking for, like a good YouTube video. And it's like, well, that kid can explain it a lot better than me. And then I was putting that kind of thing out there. Like, I'm not bombarding them like, like my parents finding out about email and having to forward a joke email every day or something like that. So it wasn't that level of an education campaign, but it's like, hey, here's Anderson Cooper doing a video and that's what I told them, when I'm trying to get them to wrap their mind around it. Hey, this isn't some sort of fringe thing. I mean, look at Oprah, look at Anderson Cooper, like, yeah, we've tried to closet people for a long period of time, but I mean, everything I've read is unconditional love. Are you on board or not on board, And then they wrap their mind around it, and most of them are like, hey, I get it. And the pronouns thing, obviously there's a transition and it's difficult, but then it's like, I just told them, hey, this is what I need from you for our kid. You're on board. And I mean, they all sort of wrapped their mind around it. It was good. I like Maryanne, you talking about I think your grandparents or parents or whatever it was. But I mean, that's the same with my aunt. And she's older. She's part of a different generation. Yeah, I mean, she does the wrong pronouns all the time, not maliciously. And probably a younger me would get self-righteous or something and have to wag my finger or whatever. And I don't. I just sort of correct her. He this, something this. No, she wants a pop or she wants a whatever it is. And it's just me. And I'm not actually even directly saying, say it like this. It's me doing it and I'm modeling it for her of what I'm looking for. And I mean, sometimes she gets it and sometimes she doesn't. And I mean, I also have the conversation with our kids about, hey, sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't. Like they're smart in some areas in life and they're not in other areas, because they was raised in a world where it's like this and this. And I go back to the other example, like you can't have women at work and, hey, look, is that a Black person with a white person? Like it's blowing their mind, but I mean, if you're born in 1940, then some of this stuff is very different. So it's, but we don't spend our time educating too much, but we do. Hey, something's well written, put it out there, you read it, you don't read it, you have questions, sort of set expectations and boundaries, which is what it sounds like everyone's sort of talking about. And some people sort of, I mean, not many, but some people aren't in our lives. Hey, that's your view, whether it's a evangelical view and this is the world and stuff. And it's sort of like, hey, we're going in different directions. I'm sure you're a great person, but you don't work in our life with our family kind of thing, so.
Great, thank you, everyone. I wonder, and feel again, but I don't want to focus just on the negative encounters you've had with family. I'm wondering if you've had any like real surprises of people who like immediately kind of get it. When I came out, I was very surprised. Like I come from a very like Anglo-Saxon kind of like very white bread family on my mom's side, and they were way weirder about things. And then my dad's side is Albanian and they're Muslim, and I had all these preconceptions that just culturally it would be way more shocking. And they were just so great, like not even a question. There was nothing weird, and older relatives like just blew my mind. Whereas, my grandmother who's lived in Canada, raised in Toronto, surely met a variety of people, like, still calls my wife my friend. Like that's, where we're at. Like just, we're great friends. And we're married, so some days I'm like, are we even friends today? Today I'm not your friend. Today we're just getting by. But I'm wondering if you had any of those surprise people who were just like super on board. Emily?
I had, am I on? Okay. Yeah, I had, I was really surprised. I was a little concerned that my husband's grandma, who's in her 90s and very evangelical, strict, religious. I assumed that she would struggle. I assumed that that she wouldn't be able to get the pronouns right or whatever, but there has not been a single time that she's ever slipped up on the pronouns even, which is pretty incredible. It happens sometimes, and when it happens you can recover, but yeah, just full of surprises, right? And so never assume what people are capable of, right?
That's wonderful. Okay, so the next one, and again, I want to focus on challenges, but also like maybe moments of really, so the next question is about school systems, and that could be any educational environment, like, or that could be day camp, daycare, a babysitter, maybe activities, extracurriculars. And I'm wondering what your experiences have been as parents navigating all those different realms of kids and other kids and teachers. I think our school system has come like just leaps and bounds, and I think there is still tons of work to do. So I'm very interested to hear what your experiences have been like, and both those, you know, the challenges and the good steps that have happened. Any takers? Matt, you're laughing, so I'm going to go to
I'm
you.
laughing at the silence. I mean, I have no issue going. I mean, we did it the easy way, like the cheating way, in the sense that we were changing schools. She was a week into kindergarten, and then it was sort of like, we got to do something because it was the right time to do it. So we came up with our list of demands for the school: washroom, pronouns, name, confidentiality. And the teacher was like, yeah, I don't know anything about this, whatever you want. And the principal was like, hey, same kind of thing. And I was like, okay, the rest was nothing kind of thing. And we have had both kids go to sleepover camps, and we only go to really accepting ones, and we chat with the counselors and all that kind of stuff. Like, we wouldn't send them to, I don't, you know, like something that's not open to that kind of thing. And they've also gone to a really good rainbow camp, 10 Oaks, which obviously hasn't run. There's a pandemic on the go. But in a post-pandemic world, I mean, it's so awesome. And the group of people, and just trying to open up those opportunities for them in those kinds of situations. But I'm trying to think about it. Like even Clara, before we adopted her, I mean, she changed, I think, in a school year, or from JK to SK, where a lot of the kids were the same and they were all loving and accepting. Like, we just haven't had super negative experiences with the circles we run in and stuff like that. So yeah, it's we're very blessed. Let's put it that way. It's been good situations.
That's great. Anyone else? Emily, yeah.
So we've had some mixed experiences. You know, my kid was already having behavioral issues at school before they came out, and certainly, you know, that all changed dramatically. At least at home after they were living their true lives, right? Their true self. But we did have to. They did develop a lot of anxiety to school after they came out in grade 1, and at this time, you know, there was school refusal. They were running away from school. Like, all they could say is school isn't safe, and I think they were very afraid of their teacher. Their teacher wasn't necessarily on board with. You know, they'd come home and say, the teacher said I can't use this washroom, and because it might confuse the other kids. And so, like, they didn't feel safe there, right? And so I did have to pull my child out and do like homeschooling for the rest of the year. And we just focused on like mental health and, you know, letting them just be themselves in a totally affirming world without school for the rest of that year. And then we switched to a new school board and a new school the next year. And we just registered them in their new name. And I did chat with the principal, and there was like some steps to go through to make sure that their privacy was protected. And so far it's been great. I mean, now school's been on and off, but you know, there's one experience that a kid from the past school outed them at the new school, and so you get the call and you deal with that. But even out of that, you know, like my child's two closest friends at the time, like were, you know, probing, like, is this true? Is this true? And they ended up coming out to them, and the kids were so affirming, right? So I'm so glad, because that's still their best friend, and like, not everyone at the school knows. Most people don't know, even, you know, teachers and stuff, but that they're, you know, their safest friends know, and, you know, and are affirming. So and as far as like extracurriculars, like, we just, like, gender, we don't talk about, like, I would say, like, you know, like, no one's gonna be, no one should have any interest in what organs you were born with, or what your body looks like under your clothes. So, you know, we're not in competitive sports where you have to do, like, I don't know, give more detail of your life, but yeah, and so it's been seamless there. But yeah, you know, there's unique experiences and some bullying here and there. Like, it's certainly something that that needs work, especially in the elementary level, where there's just a lot less visibility.
Mm-hmm. A lot of gendering still for kids too, which I think is the big obstacle. They're just so heavily gendered that we're doing a disservice to kids. And I think, like, you're all parents, and your kids, maybe they will have kids, and, like, how cool are those kids going to be, you know, because they'll have had a different start, but it's really tough. There's a lot to combat. Maryanne or Theresa, did you want to add anything? You're good? Great. Okay. So it's 7:45. I want to let anyone watching know that we would be very happy to do any questions at the end. So feel free to put those in the Q&A or put those in the chat, and we'll make sure we get to them. So one other question we have, and this would be likely for Theresa and Maryanne, which is to talk about PFLAG and what that's been, what that is, and then also what that's been, I think, for you as individuals, I think would be nice to hear. And before we started, we heard about Theresa and Maryanne's friendship, and I think that is lovely. And yeah, no one in my family nor myself has ever been involved in PFLAG, and you folks give me a lot of hope, because I feel like PFLAG has also been around for quite some time, and that is what gives me a lot of hope, is thinking about people who've been doing this work for a long time. It's wild that it's work, but the work of accepting children, and I'd love to hear more about your experiences.
Sure. Maryanne, you can jump in anytime. Too. So I started as I used to go to a counseling session through KW counseling called Okay to Be Me with Ezra, and it was a wonderful family counseling. And our counselor, he recommended that I go to PFLAG, and so that's where I met Maryanne again. And I went to the first one, and it was just like, oh yeah, this is wonderful. And it's just a group of parents who get together and talk about their kids and you know, what their fears are and what their hopes are. And it's just such a great place and it's a safe space for us to talk and be able to say things that, you know, you wouldn't dare say to your children, like about your fears and stuff like that. And it's just wonderful. So we have a group on Facebook. We meet the third Tuesday of every month. Now, right now it's virtually, of course. So we meet through Zoom. And it's from 7 till 9, third Tuesday of every month. And it's lots of fun. Anybody can come. There's no commitment. Just show up.
I'd like to add that it's not just parents. It's also, we've had spouses and siblings and aunts and grandmas, and it's families. And it's not just trans kids. It's also kids who identify as gay, lesbian, bi as well, or non-conforming or whatever they are trying to figure out, because often it's a matter of the kids are saying to their parents, this is who I am, and the parents are like, I don't understand, or I'm doing my best. And so it's just a place where they can say, I'm not sure how to support my child when I don't understand. And so it's a really great place for folks to just get resources and to talk things out, because sometimes it is hard. You know, there's moments where fear, I think, for newly outed kids, parents sometimes have the fear because, like Matt said, they look at those statistics and they're not necessarily looking at supported children versus unsupported children, and they see their child hurting. And so it can become a pretty scary time. So we like to think that it's supportive, but also it feels comfortable. Like there's just, even brand new parents, when they come for the very first time, some folks are very quiet for the first hour and 45 minutes. And they're ready to talk in the last 15 minutes and share, and they come back. And yeah, we've seen a lot of families over the years. It's really lovely, and spouses and siblings and
grandparents sometimes.
Yeah.
Very lovely. We've mentioned PFLAG. We've talked about OK to Be Me, which is a group that is, I believe, and any of you correct me, I believe it's 12 to 18, 20?
12 to 18, yeah.
Yeah.
But OK to Be Me also has counseling services for the kids and for the parents and stuff. I can't say enough about them.
Yes.
Like, they did a great job.
Yes. And I think that's a great resource, that the groups are good and individual counseling is good. And I think what we're hearing from all of you is that the work is not just about your kids and your kids going to counseling or groups. Like, there is work to be done as parents who are part of the process as well. And I'm guessing, for siblings and other people, because I really appreciated, Matt, how often you keep saying, like, it's just normal. Like, trans people have always existed, queer people have always existed. We haven't normalized it. And it's not that anyone is weird or strange. It's that the world is just like, there is a lot of work left in this world to be done. At the beginning, we talked about how we're in a time of grief and harsh realities. And that's because there is so much work left to be done. And these kids are, I think I love all your children just from hearing about them. I'm emotionally attached to all of them at this point. But it's that the world has a lot more work left to do. So I don't think we have audience questions, but I have some bonus questions before we wrap up. And I'd also like to leave time for all of you if you wanted to reflect or add anything at the end. But anyway, I was saying there is OK to Be Me. We've talked about, there's PFLAG. We've also talked about Camp 10 Oaks, which I've only heard wonderful things about. And I believe what is nice is that the counselors are also part of the community as well, which makes a huge difference. We're doing a panel at the end of the month. Scott has put it in the chat with queer elders. And we know that for a variety of reasons, you don't get to meet queer and trans elders often, whether it was the AIDS pandemic, whether it's just how hard it has been for them to exist. So anytime kids get to meet someone older who's like them, I think is really wonderful. And I'm wondering other ways you found community and connecting. Are there groups we're missing? Like, did you just look on Facebook and try to find another group? Like, when I was pregnant, I was just like looking for other queer parenting groups, and I'm in some weird Facebook groups now, but I'm wondering if there's other resources you found that we've missed.
I found the Kitchener Public Library a huge help, right?
Great.
Just type in transgender, and then I found a ton of books that some were good, some were great, and some maybe not so great, but but it helped me, I found. And it helped me find other groups too as well.
I think there's a lot of community groups, like community-led. Like we were talking about the potluck that Holly puts on. And some of them I've heard from, and I think she's still with the school board, Deepa, the inclusion officer. like she has links and contact info for a lot of people like that. So that potluck was good. We do a lot of stuff in Guelph too. And I thought the city was actually running like a rainbow get together for teen kids Friday nights in the before times, maybe once a month, maybe every week. I can't really remember. It's all, but I mean, that one of our kids went to, and that was wonderful. So, I mean, they're out there when we look, kind of thing. It has been my experience, and different faith communities. I know religion's a sort of a swear word, but I think like we've been with different Unitarian congregations, either in Kitchener and the one in Guelph, and I mean they've had great events and great get-togethers and great, yeah. So it's been good, like lots of good kids groups and stuff like that, and yeah, that's. I'm trying to think what else we're missing, but yeah, it's just being in those circles and then learning from one another, and yeah, all that stuff.
Well, and I assume you make your own. You meet other parents, you have a play date. We do have a group that runs out of Spectrum. The reason I got started with Spectrum was I run it's a queer families drop-in, so it's for younger children, like 0 to 6 is what we say. In the before times, we're running that. So it's for like if the children are part of the community, the parents are, whoever it is. One day we will pick that back up again, and it's just like an adorable get together of small children and a lot of like rainbow themed toys in a room, which seems impossible at this point in the pandemic and life, but perhaps it'll happen again. And I know Tri Pride does do a family pride as well. So hopefully one day, and Guelph does a really great pride, and I've been to their family pride events, and I really have Guelph Pride I find is very intersectional in how they're doing pride, and I've been quite happy to attend some of their events. Okay, great. So we have 5 minutes left, and I wanted to see if maybe we could just do one more go around and kind of reflect on anything else you want to part with, anything that has come out of this that you're thinking about, or, maybe this is just going to leave your brain tomorrow because you're just going to go back to busy lives of being parents and working and whatever. But I'd love for us just to close off and maybe see where we're going from here. Theresa, I'm going to go with you first.
Sure. I really don't have anything to add. This has been wonderful. Thank you, Suzie. This is, it just, the once a month we get together with PFLAG is probably 2 of the best hours of my month, because I really connect with people at those meetings, and this has just been wonderful as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Theresa. Maryanne.
Yes, I would love to see families join us at PFLAG as well, and I think I'd like to just is the most important parenting lesson that I've learned through Alex, which made me a better parent for Spencer, was, I don't say it as eloquently as all the memes, of course, and all the fancy posters, but love the child you have, not the child you expected to have. And everything is great as soon as we grasp that idea. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Maryanne. Matt, do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. I'll just reiterate what I said. I think we have a choice with everything in life, like how we approach it. And I think in this situation and lots of situations with what our kids get into, we have the choice whether we love them unconditionally or not. Like all these support groups and all the other stuff and decisions that need to be made, like they fall out of it. But I found for me, when I make the choice to love them unconditionally, and screw some other things up and get some things right along the way, but it's okay if I start with that unconditional love.
That's great. Emily?
Agreed. Love, love, love. But I, you know what, honestly, like my world became so much more expansive once my child came out in so many good ways, right? Like, I did feel this sort of fierce ness about me of like wanting to protect them and protect all the kids everywhere, right? All the humans. But really, it's just like it's only made life better. There's challenges, but that's not a bad thing, right? That's a part of life. So yeah, be okay with that you don't have control over anything anyway. So enjoy the ride.
The worst part of life. Just want to control it. Thank you. I very much sincerely thank all of you. I mean, personally, I'm a brand new parent, and it's really wonderful just to learn from other parents. And as a queer person, it's just, my parents would never participate in this, like, just to be honest. They're not bad people, but they're not on this level, and I really appreciate that you folks are, and that you're willing to talk about this. And I assume there's, other parents who are going to watch this, and then just other queer and trans folks who didn't have parents who were able to get past everything and see them. And I appreciate hearing from people who are in this spot. So thank you. Thank you on behalf of Spectrum. Thank you to everyone who attended. We will have other events this month. So every Wednesday, there will be more of these panels. There are some focus groups. Check out, Scott has put it in the chat, and it's on spectrum.com/pride, I think, for more events. Yeah, and this has just been wonderful. And I hope one day to meet you all in person. Have a big pride, and take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.